It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Welcome to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Thanks for joining us. Remember, in Hazleton, we're on HD 513, Pottsville 190, Lackawanna County 190, and also in the Mountaintop, Wilkes-Barre, Kingston area, Channel 92. Folks, you're familiar with the March on Washington, the Women's March. Today, what I'd like to do is present some information to you. And remember, this is strictly information, and I'm going to say right up front, anybody who has any opposing viewpoints of what we're going to talk about today, please call me or email me, sam@ssptv.com. I've invited Planned Parenthood many times to come on, tell their story. Valerie White from Drums on the letters to the editor, she said about abortion, and part of this show is I want you to just look and understand what's going on. An estimated 65%, this is what's in her letter to the editor, the Standard Speaker, an estimated 65% of women seeking abortion feel coerced by their partner, husband, or family. Is that really a reproductive choice? 40% to 60% of women who've undergone an abortion later report. Now listen to this. 40% to 60% of women who had an abortion later report suffering from some combination of depression, drug abuse, grief, or guilt. Where's the empowerment in that? So folks, what we're going to talk about today, show you a couple clips, and just think about it. That's all I'm asking you to do is think about it. And a little later on, joining us on the show is Representative Jerry Knowles from the 124th Legislative District, Pennsylvania. Jerry made a presentation in the House of Representatives. I'm going to show you that clip too. And also we're talking a little bit about the funding in the state of Pennsylvania, what's happening in our state. So right now, I want you to look at this, and it could be a little graphic, but I'd like you to take a look at this, and then we come back, we'll show you the presentation that Jerry made in the House and the importance of this and what's happening in the world today. So, Andy, if you want to run this.
Every generation has a defining moment. It's how they face it that goes down in history.
That is terrible.
Future generations look back at all the movies and the books, and they see who stood tall. They see who stood on the wrong side of history, and they see who didn't even stand at all. That moment, future generations will look back on to judge this one, is here, right now. The veil's been torn. The deceptive words that have masked an unspeakable evil for decades were shattered and wiped away in just a few short, devastating videos.
Another boy. Another boy. Boy. Boy.
The greatest genocide we have ever known is going on right now and happening on our watch. More have perished in this genocide than in the Holocaust, the Armenian genocide, the Greek genocide, the Soviet famine, the Rwandan genocide, Darfur, and 30 more of the most notorious atrocities in world history combined. All of it sanctioned, made acceptable with words. It's my choice. A woman has a right to her own body. It's only tissue, embryo, a fetus. One word is conveniently left out, a word that changes everything. Human tissue, human embryo, human fetus. Even the law that prohibits the trafficking of fetal tissue doesn't just say fetal tissue, it says human fetal tissue, because the science is quite settled. It's a human being.
Before you move the set, we'll make sure we have all the other two done. So you feel like you have a good hold of him?
There's not one documented example in the history of the entire world where a human embryo or human fetus grew into a cat or an elephant or a plant or a tree or some other inanimate object. It's a human life. And life is never a mistake. It's never a punishment. It's not to be treated casually or just discarded at a whim when inconvenient. It is a gift, and it is always beautiful. From the very moment of conception, The very essence of who you are, your DNA, it's formed. In 2 weeks, the nervous system. Shortly after that, the heart beats. Then the spinal cord forms. By week 8, all structures are present in the human body. Yet abortion is legal up to 22 weeks in 46 states. The most horrific scenes in those videos you've been seeing, the baby was only 18 weeks. Imagine how much bigger those little arms and feet and legs are at 20 weeks, 21, 24, 26. How are we letting this happen? We're out of step with the world. Our laws are on par with Russia and China. This is our moment to shed the shackles of clever wording. Our time to stop dehumanizing what every scientific fact and rational bone in our body points to as a human. It's our time to defend the defenseless, speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. It's our time to start a new conversation, to fix reason firmly in her seat and say, no, this choice is not okay. It's time we declare that we will no longer accept our taxpayer dollars going towards this butchery. And beyond that, we will no longer accept this mockery of human life. This, not income inequality, not minimum wage hikes, this is our defining moment. Future generations are watching closely. How do you want to be remembered? The choice is yours, but choose wisely, because millions of lives literally depend on it.
So we had march in Washington. Now the question is, Women's March, was it a rally for abortion? Now, I'm hoping and praying that over 90% or 95% of those people, women who marched, was for political reasons or whatever, and that's fine. But if a majority of those women were there fighting for the right to have an abortion, it saddens me, folks. It really does sadden me to know that here are women who are saying it's okay to abort those little children. For the sakes, I just can't fathom this. I really can't. But how anyone could do that. Now, I remember Hollywood, majority of them are for pro-choice. In fact, when Trump was running for president and he said he was pro-life, the one actress, I don't know her name, but I could find it, said at a rally for Hillary Clinton, women better get out there and get as many abortions as possible. How do you destroy God's creation? Now, a representative in the state of Pennsylvania, Jerry Knowles, had a presentation that he made in the House. So here's his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as one of 139 members of the Pro-Life Caucus and one of the 99 sponsors of House Bill 1948, I stand in strong support of House Bill 1948. In order to tell you why I support this bill, I want to tell you a story. It's a true story. A story that was relayed to me by a good friend that many of you in this chamber know. My friend's wife was in the 6th week of her pregnancy when she was involved in a car accident. It's important to remember this as I go through this story. This was in the 6th week of her pregnancy. She was in a car accident. Naturally, both he and his wife were concerned about the baby's health as a result of the car crash. As I noted before, she was only 6 weeks pregnant, so a normal ultrasound would not have provided the needed information. So therefore, a vaginal probe ultrasound was used. as the special ultrasound was being done, my friend stood by with his eyes riveted to the screen, with his heart in his throat. As he looked at the screen, he saw what he described as a very rapid, tiny flutter. A rapid flutter. He turned to the technician who was giving the test, and he looked at him and he said, "That's my baby's heart beating, isn't it?" He said, "That's my baby's heart beating, isn't it?" Well, as you know, in these situations, technicians can't really say. That's up to the doctor. But the technician smiled at him and he said, "Sir," with a big smile, he said, "You'll have to talk to the doctor about that." Well, the doctor confirmed that the flutter was indeed his baby's heart. That tiny heart that was beating only 6 weeks after conception is beating today, 25 years later, in a young woman named Jane. It was Jane's heart then, 6 weeks after conception, and it's Jane's heart now. It's Jane's heart now. Both Jane and that heart, they're bigger and they're stronger, but it's the same heart after 25 years. If for whatever reason that flutter that my friend saw had been stopped, Jane wouldn't be here today. Jane wouldn't be here today. Mr. Speaker, the reason I feel so strongly about this bill and any other bill that provides protection to unborn children is because I know that inside those little babies, and you can call them embryo, and you can call them fetus, and you can call them fertilized eggs, but they're babies. They're little babies. Inside those little babies are little hearts that become big hearts. Mr. Speaker, one of the things that I just can't kind of grasp, I hear some of my friends over on this side of the aisle, and they keep on wanting to get back to the doctors. What did the doctors say? I find that rather interesting because when we were making the argument on medical marijuana that this was something that the medical society, that they were opposed to medical marijuana, one of my friends on the other side said something that shot into my mind. He said, "Jerry, being a doctor doesn't make you an expert on what's right and what's wrong." You're right. You got to know what's right and you got to know what's wrong. Mr. Speaker, I want to finish by reading a quote from one of the great liberal Democrats of my time, Hubert H. Humphrey. It was once said that the moral test of government is how that government treats those who are in the dawn of life, the children, those who are in the twilight of life, the elderly, and those who are in the shadows of life, the sick, the needy, and the handicapped. Mr. Speaker, I ask you all to do the right thing by voting yes on House Bill 1948 to protect those in the dawn of their life. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Joining me now is Representative Jerry Knowles from the 124th District. Jerry, I applaud you for what you've said in the House. And, Jerry, I just can't fathom anybody, okay? And, I know you hear this is my body, and I understand that. But I'm pro-choice. My pro-choice is before you have sex, that's your choice. And listen, I'm not a hypocrite. I mean, this is the way life is. But your choice is before that. Once God's creation takes over, then it's a whole different ballgame. But anyway, what got you so involved in this pro-life movement, Jerry?
Well, you know what, Sam, on a brighter note, you talked earlier about the marches in Washington, and I was pleased to know that the March for Life, the pro-life march, I was pleased to hear about the number of young people
Yes.
that took place in that. That was refreshing to me, to know that we have a generation now that is recognizing, that it is a life from the time of conception. It is a life. It's a little person. It's a heart. It's a baby. I think that they use these words when they talk about embryo, when they talk about this. They call it everything but what it is. It's a baby. It's a baby. It's a heart. It's a human being. And I am just blown away by the fact, and I think you're exactly right when you talk about making a choice. You can make that choice, but you make it before the baby is conceived. That's the way that I feel also. And it just boggles my mind when I hear some people talking. Some people say it's my body. And, well, it may be your body, but somebody needs to protect that innocent child. Sam, the bill that I'm talking about, which is going to be House Bill 77, what it does is, currently, a woman can have an abortion on demand up until 6 months.
That's like 24 weeks.
Yeah, but I want you to think about something, Sam. I think about women who I see that are 6 months pregnant. And whenever they're referring to, it's their child, it's their baby.
Yeah.
That's how they refer to it. And it's been kicking for 3 months. You talk to women who say at 3 months the baby's active, the baby's kicking, and all we're looking to do is to have that 6 months reduced to 5 months. That's all we're asking.
If it was me, it wouldn't even be 1 day.
I agree with you.
That's okay. It wouldn't be 1 day. When you think about, Jerry, I had Mary Ann Law on, who is definitely a very liberated woman and very, she's liberal, and but she talks about, she's the president of the regional pro-life here. She talks about what this has done, what it's doing for women, but unfortunately, over 70%, I understand, of the abortions in the country are African American. Okay, and if I was an African American, I would be completely offended by this, because what they're trying to do is eliminate as many African. That's my appointment. Okay, but I think women who are pregnant and are thinking about this, they need help. Those women who had abortions, certainly, you don't criticize them. They need as much help as possible. But, I just can't understand it, Jerry. We're a selfish society, and when you start talking about these things, people start throwing up, well, you're not a woman, it's my body and that stuff. But for you as a representative, I think you have a lot of courage in doing that, huh?
Well,
do you get a lot of opposition from some of your members?
Yeah, there's some pushback, but Sam, I've said this from the very first day that I was elected. There are probably 3 issues that I will fall on the sword for, and this is one of those issues. To me, you can talk to me until you're blue in the face. I am pro-life. I will continue to be pro-life till the day that I die. It's kind of interesting. When you talk, there are countries that we view as being very liberal. France, Germany, Greece, and Belgium. If you talk to people, they'll say, oh my gosh, they're so liberal over there. Well, interestingly enough, the countries that I just mentioned, they have an abortion cutoff time of 12 weeks. 12 weeks. And these are considered liberal countries by people that I talk to. The other thing is that we are one of 7 countries that allow abortion after 20 weeks. And you know what? 2 of those 7 are China and South Korea. I mean, come on. Let's it just, Sam, when I think about this issue, when I talk about this issue, I just don't understand it. I just don't.
I just can't either. I mean, when you look at the sad part again, and I'm they keep saying you're picking on Hillary Clinton. No, Hillary Clinton. She said in a debate she was okay with partial birth abortion. She was okay. She said it's troubling, but And then the mindset when Michelle Obama came out, and when the Supreme Court says no, partial birth abortion, and you know what that is, sucking the brains out of a baby. Dr. Polidoro made that efficient, depicted it right to what actually happens. The President of the United States' wife says it was the worst decision that was ever made, that they should have partial birth abortion. Well, why don't you just shoot people when you don't want them anymore? Okay, why don't you, if you're getting old, Jerry, and you get a certain point, why don't we just put you out of your misery because, we don't like you anymore? And this is the mindset, Jerry, that I think some people, we're winning in some areas, okay? You know what really upsets me before I go to break? You know what really breaks my heart, Jerry? Is when I see Catholic women who are protesting that they say we should have an abortions. That breaks my heart.
Well, Sam, there's two elements to this bill. If I got to go a little bit more. If you want to do that after the break, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. There's two elements. The one is that we are reducing the period of time from 6 months to 5 months. That is from 24 weeks to 20 weeks. The other element is the way that these abortions are performed. They're just basically tearing the baby out of the mother's body. It's just unbelievable. They tear the baby out of the mother. Now that sounds rather graphic.
That's what it is.
But that's what it is.
Could you imagine, how could anyone, physician or whomever, from Planned Parenthood, how could they ever tell a woman to go through this? And how can you go home at night saying, I just pulled 10, 15 babies apart and have a clear conscience? So I'm talking to Jerry Knowles, folks. It's a pro-life show, as you know. But remember, I've offered this opportunity at Planned Parenthood a number of times. I just think it's wrong. I think we're a selfish country. And I think, a lot of prayers are involved here. But here's the other question. When we come back, I'm asking Jerry this. You know what people say to me? Yeah, you Catholics. And unfortunately, folks, I think the Protestants are more pro-life than most Catholics, okay? Particularly when you see this march and you see who went to the march for women. I'm not talking to pro-life. And they're Catholics saying it's okay to have an abortion. That really just throws me apart. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show. Remember, Pottsville 190, Channel 190, Lackawanna County 190, Mountaintop 92, and Wilkes-Barre 92, Hazelton Channel 13 and 513. My guest is Representative Jerry Knowles from the 124th Legislative District. Jerry, before we go on to your other bill, you just brought an interesting point. When the rally was against Trump, there was over 500,000, and you just said that they didn't allow the pro-life people to be there.
Well, they discouraged the pro-life people. They said they weren't welcome.
Which means that it could have been, fighting for pro-choice, okay? And I like these women. I'm happy to be pro-choice, and they have their daughters carrying this, which is sad. Fortunately, you said pro-life march had a lot of young people, and closer, maybe more than the rally. But now you have a bill. We got about 4 minutes left. We have a bill on House Bill 14. Okay, what is that bill?
House Bill 14 is legislation that would require universities, whether they be state-owned, state-related, trade schools, community colleges, it would require them, they can't be sanctuary campuses. They can't harbor illegal aliens. They would be a sanctuary campus if they adopted policies refusing federal officials, federal authorities to come on campus, if they direct their campus police not to cooperate with the federal agencies, or if they refuse to share information about undocumented students on their campus. That would qualify them as being a sanctuary campus. If they are a sanctuary campus, my legislation says that you will get no state dollars. And Sam, we're talking about over $1 billion that we give to these colleges and these universities. And, there's two that have indicated that they're going to be sanctuary campuses. One being, one being the Swarthmore. If you know anything at all about Swarthmore, no. That's about as liberal as you get. Mm-hmm. But they don't get state dollars, so that's their problem. Let them deal with that. Mm-hmm. But the one campus is the University of Pennsylvania, and they get about, I think it's $30.3 million from us. And what I'm saying is, if you want our money, you're going to obey the law. You're going to obey the federal law. If we're going, are we a society of laws or aren't we? Are we going to begin to say, well, I like that law. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, that one I don't like.
You're seeing it happen now with Trump.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're seeing that happening right now. In other words, what he's trying to do is and of course, the liberal press is blowing that way out of proportion. Okay, so in other words, there could be 300 people protesting. You make it look like there's 30,000. Okay, which is sad. Okay, but I think he's protecting the country like you're doing your production. Okay,
Sam, I will say this: Donald Trump is our president. To the people that have a problem with that, get over it. Hey, I just put up with Barack Obama for 8 years.
Yeah.
And they weren't the most pleasant 8 years of my life.
Well, here again, there's the results, what happened. But anyway, the thing is, what you guys are doing is, listen, I know a lot of good friends who are Democrats. I mean, I have the greatest respect for Senator Udechak. I think someday, hopefully, he's a governor. I mean, I like the guy. He's just honest. And hey, look. We were Democrats all our lives. That's when Democrats were for families, they were for this, they're for good things, okay? What they did is, the Democrats who are old Democrats are disappointed what the party did.
They're the Bob Casey Democrats.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And there's another story.
The other Bob Casey.
Not this Bob Casey.
No, not the other Bob.
His father is doing flips and dances in his grave of what his son's doing.
He's rolling over.
I mean, it's just disgraceful what his son's doing. It just blows my mind. Okay, but anyway, that's another thing. One very quickly. So they say, all right, you guys, Catholics, want to have the children. Well, who's going to take care of them? What's your answer to that?
I'm sorry.
Well, you're going to have the children, but who's going to take care of them?
Oh, there'll be somebody. There's a lot of people out there that are looking
Tons
to
of them.
adopt.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. There are. I know people that can have children that would love to have one of those children, would love to be able to adopt them and raise them in this country.
I remember doing a telethon. I don't want to say where it was, but I remember doing a telethon, and good old Miss Judy, I worked with her at WNEP, and we're ready to do a telethon, and she got out of the car, and we're ready, walking in the hospital. She says, isn't this a shame, Sammy? She said, what? She said, one end of the hospital are killing babies. This end of the hospital, we're going to try to save babies with our telethon. And you think about what is happening to our country today. You know, could you imagine how God is crying? When you are destroying His creation, okay, could you imagine? Jerry, I'm a sinful man. But when I answer to God, I want to make sure, I'm going to tell Him, I try to save as many babies as your creation as possible. Some people think they're going to live forever. I don't think so, Jerry. I don't think so, you know. I applaud you for what you're doing in the state.
Well, Sam, listen, I thank you for the invitation to be here. And I applaud you for the passion that you have for the pro-life issue.
It's a simple thing. They're little babies. Give them a chance. You know, we're killing scientists, we're killing doctors, you know, etc. And for those women who had abortions, I really pray for them, and I wish they would well. I just pray that people who are thinking about getting abortions don't go through it. Jerry, keep the good work up. Say hello to my good friend Tara Toohill. Okay?
I will do that.
Okay. Folks, remember, I know some of you get upset when I do these shows, and that's rightly so, but you call me and tell me that it's okay to rip little arms and legs apart and have Planned Parenthood come here. I'm more than happy to. I'll shut up. Just say, tell your story. I'm more than happy to do that. We'll see you next time.